Liverpool have beaten Newcastle 3-2, and I want to focus on what midfield changes Arne Slot made, personnel that influenced the game to mean that Liverpool were able to snatch the win and get a 3-2 win, and they didn't drop any points to 10-man Newcastle. Ignore my background, I'm redoing stuff. Trust me, next time you see my background, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. But for now, let's head into some tactical analysis and look at where the game was nearly lost, but salvaged by one genius substitution. So early on, Liverpool didn't really have a way out, and whether this was a deliberate kind of like choice or by Arne Slot, or whether this was just a byproduct of everything that was going on, you could see that Alisson was going long over and over again. Now, a big part of the problem was that actually you could see that Joelinton here has pushed right onto Gravenberch. You've got Tonali close to Wirtz. You've got Bruno Guimaraes close to Curtis Jones. So all three of the centre midfielders are being man-marked by the three centre midfielders of Newcastle, which you would expect. And then you've got Elanga really pushed up on Kerkez. You've got Livramento pushed up on Szoboszlai whenever he came central, which then left Salah at times with a bit of space, but it left kind of like nowhere to go other than to go long. And this was a habit that was going on over and over again for pretty much the majority of the first half. Here we go again. There's a long ball by Van Dijk. Where's our midfield three? There's Gravenberch with Joelinton. There's Curtis Jones, and there's Tonali with Wirtz. So the midfield three could not get on the ball. Were Liverpool missing McAllister? Absolutely. But normally Curtis Jones is comfortable with the ball at feet. We haven't seen too much of Wirtz, but Gravenberch is brilliant at that pivot of receiving the ball to his feet and turning. And we just couldn't get going. You can see here, when do you see Alisson playing this ball long over and over again? And this is just the 11th minute. And again, bypassing the whole midfield. Here they are again. 1, 2, 3 of Liverpool. 1, 2, 3 of Newcastle. Now, of course, this is Newcastle's strength. This is where they want the game to be played, in the middle, where they can actually get their probably their three best players at the moment, just absolutely nullifying the effect of Liverpool's midfielders. And again, you've got Curtis Jones, you've got Gravenberch, and you've got Wirtz, all extremely narrow. Whether this was by design or whether this was a byproduct of what Newcastle and the high press and just not being able to play through, and Liverpool not willing to take risks and just punting it long, which I think, by the way, Ekitike was unbelievable against Schär and Burn. He was so physical. Of course, he's a unit of a striker, but for a young striker to be up against Burn and Schär, who are just so, they're experienced in the Prem, but also very physical. I thought he did absolutely brilliantly. But this was happening time and time again. And again, this is now the 20th minute. Everything was long. Everything. And our midfield were just so incredibly narrow, which enabled, again, Newcastle to be incredibly narrow as well, and to dominate with three of kind of like that midfield partnership that they've got of Tonali, Joelinton, Bruno Guimaraes. There's not many that are actually better than them, and it just played into their hands. This is the 37th minute. This is when we've actually scored a goal. I did actually think that Newcastle looked a little bit leggy, and I think this would have been a great opportunity to then really go for that kind of like that second goal before half-time, that real sucker punch. But you can see even still, you've got Wirtz. He's been absolutely hounded here by Bruno Guimaraes, and you can see how difficult it was for Liverpool to play through, and then you get panic passes like that. Justin shot on this side over here as well. Joelinton still with Curtis Jones. And actually look at this midfield position here. Our midfielders are so disjointed, and we could not get anything going through the midfield. And this was the problem. Kerkez at the moment, I'm not really sure what's going on. His biggest strength at Bournemouth were his overlapping runs, and we seem to be stifling him by just retreating. Like, how many times do you see Kerkez overlapping Gakpo in the first couple of games, whether that's the Community Shield game, whether that's Bournemouth, or of course the latest game against Newcastle? We're just not seeing it. We can see how Szoboszlai in this sort of example and quite a few of the other stills is coming a bit more central. No, I wouldn't say necessarily too inverted, but you can see definitely coming a bit more central. Makes sense. Szoboszlai is a midfielder player. He's a midfielder, sorry, he's not a fullback. But with Frimpong, again, you'll see he was the more attacking one. Kerkez not so much. Is this where Liverpool are kind of relying on the midfield? Could Kerkez actually be in this space occupied here? Would that draw out Elanga? Would that create space? It's a bit confusing. I don't really know what we're doing with Kerkez at the moment, but you could see that actually Liverpool was struggling to play through the midfield, and Newcastle was sensing that this was an area that they can absolutely get the upper hand on. Just a few moments later, and you can see again, I'm going to circle the midfielders because this is the major problem. Look how narrow they all are. There's Bruno, there's Joelinton, there's Tonali, and they could just literally crowd out those three midfield players. Now, when they got Anthony Gordon sent off, they didn't actually change anything and didn't have to. Elanga and Harvey Barnes just came a little bit more narrow, but they kept this midfield three structure, but so did Arne Slot and so did Liverpool, which meant that actually not a lot changed. They just missed this focal point of Anthony Gordon with a bit more of a higher press, but actually nothing really changed in terms of the midfield battle. We were still three against those threes. They were still incredibly narrow, and it was still too easy for Newcastle to put that press on. Again, look where our midfielders are. They're just out the game. There's Wirtz completely out the game, but who's close to him? Tonali. Can't find any sort of space. Szoboszlai's come a bit central, but then you've got Harvey Barnes who's come in there. We've got no presence in the middle of the pitch whatsoever, but Gravenberch gone wide here, hasn't actually dragged anyone out either. And this is what Liverpool are finding really difficult to do all the way through the first half. Even when they find the ball to Wirtz, so close on him. It wasn't just Tonali, it was Kieran Trippier as well. Nowhere to go. But again, even if Wirtz managed to break through, this press here from Tonali and Trippier, where is he going to go? The midfield is absolutely nowhere. Szoboszlai, okay, there is an outlet here, but it was very disjointed. And again, were we missing McAllister? Is the balance of Wirtz quite there yet? He's very different to Szoboszlai, but it was really noticeable all the way through that first half. And then this happened. So, yep, Curtis Jones sub for Harvey Elliott. Of course, Ria Engamoa comes on and he steals all the headlines. But it's Harvey Elliott that I want to focus on, because in the second half, the same sort of things that are highlighted in the first half were still happening. Something changed in the second half. We've got Szoboszlai, but I want to focus on the movement of Harvey Elliott because it is so different to what Liverpool had before. Now, the differences with Harvey Elliott weren't really doing before, there's a little bit, and he is now being able to find the ball space where he hasn't got someone glued to him, whether this is fatigue of Newcastle fresh legs, but he's picking up the ball in a few different places that cause Newcastle a whole load of problems. Again, I want to focus on the midfield here. Midfield three, slightly further apart, rather than being really narrow like they were before, but Harvey Elliott has found himself in between where the back four is and this midfield three, which is really important because he kept on picking up little pockets, which just means now, does the midfielder push on to Connor Bradley? What does the left back do? Does he get tight with Salah? He's also very wary of Harvey Elliott picking up this ball. He just caused a little bit of movement with Newcastle's midfielders and defence. And again, we can see Harvey Elliott looking for space. Do they go? Again, midfielder. Do we go to Connor? Harvey Elliott is looking for a little bit of a pocket, which we didn't have all game. Between this back four, 97th and minute, the midfield again, three, Harvey Elliott has positioned himself, constantly buzzing. He's constantly on the move, looking for those little pockets of space. This not only makes his life easier, it also makes Connor Bradley, the right back's life, a little bit easier, because now the midfielder's got a choice to make. And it's this little bit of just composure on the ball, not panic, not hitting the ball long, not looking for a first-time pass, just getting the foot on the ball that none of our midfielders did all game. It took Harvey Elliott to come on to change the game completely and get that bit of control. Again, not a greatest ball, but you can see how things are developing. Again, here's our midfield three. So you can see they're a bit further apart this time. You can see how Connor Bradley has come central, just like Szoboszlai did. But rather than Harvey Elliott being here and congesting this middle part of the pitch, he's gone wider, which again creates a problem and just gives a different option and a bit of space. So Gravenberch to Van Dijk to Konate, and now the midfielder on this left-hand side, it's now Jacob Ramsey. Does he stay with Connor Bradley? But now we've got a wide option of Harvey Elliott as well. So that little bit of movement, wider movement. You know, he was a right winger, converted to kind of like a cam central midfielder, but it just enabled Liverpool to play, get foot on the ball, and get control of this match. Look how Harvey Elliott, again, I love this bit of leadership, gives Salah again where the ball can go. It's going to force a decision from the midfielder again from Newcastle. Liverpool didn't have this at all. I tried to find some sort of clips, went through the whole game. What you saw from the midfield, what I highlighted in the first part of the video, is all I could find for the midfield. So again, midfielder comes across and Harvey Elliott all of a sudden has just got a bit of space and he's broken from the midfield three. Not only is he broken away, we can now see a bit of space for the other midfielders, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. Rather than being ultra congested like they were in the first half and allowing the midfield three of Newcastle to be really narrow, compact, really difficult for Liverpool to play through, all of a sudden they've got space. And it's the space that Harvey Elliott is bringing for himself, but also others. If we play this forward then, we can see a bit more composure. Now Harvey Elliott's on the move again. The midfielder has been dragged out wide to Connor Bradley. Miley's getting drawn to the ball. This is the fatal error. It allows Harvey Elliott to get that pocket of space, and this is really key. There it goes, and now some really nice first touch passing, and that midfield three that put the press on, drawn out of their positions, are now exposed. They're now all over the place. And for the first time in such a long time in this game, Liverpool can actually get the ball to attacking players without this pressure from the midfield. And this was the difference. This is the catalyst to Rio Engamoa being the absolute hero. What a moment for the 16-year-old in putting the ball in the back of the net. And the scenes, well, they speak for themselves. What a moment. But it's that bit of midfield play, that difference of Harvey Elliott coming on, that I noticed was the difference between a 2-2 draw and a 3-2 win. Let me know what you thought about the game in the comment section below. I would like to look at the games each week and just try and look at things with that analytical point of view. What are the little subtle changes in the game that can change it, flipping its head? Obviously, we've got Arsenal at home this weekend. That's going to be an interesting one. Let me know what you thought of this type of video. I'm trying to bring different content on a fan channel, I guess, when it's all Liverpool content. So let me know what you think about this video. If you are new, a like and subscribe does go a long way. And I'll see you soon for next one. Hopefully, after Liverpool collect another 3 points and make it 3 out of 3 against Arsenal. Take care, lads and ladies.